Chapter 3, Part 2. Then the pattering began. Was it in front or behind? It seemed to be closing in on him, hunting, chasing something, or somebody. In panic, he began to run too. He ran up against things, he fell over things and into things. He darted under things and dodged around things. At last he took refuge in the deep dark hollow of an old beech tree. He was too tired to run any further, and could only snuggle down into the dry leaves and hope he was safe. Meantime, the rat, warm and comfortable, dozed by his fireside. Then a coal slipped, the fire crackled, and he woke with a start. He reached down to the floor for his verses and then looked round for the mole to ask him if he knew a rhyme for something or other. But the mole was not there. He called, "Moley!" several times and received no answer, got up and went out into the hall. The mole's cap and galoshes were gone. The rat left the house hoping to find the mole's tracks. There they were, sure enough. He could see the imprints in the mud leading direct to the wild wood. The rat looked very grave. Then he re-entered the house, strapped a belt around his waist, shoved a brace of pistols into it, and took up a stout cudgel and set off for the wild wood at a smart pace. Here and there wicked little faces popped out of holes, but vanished immediately at the sight of the valorous animal, his pistols and great ugly cudgel in his grasp. He made his way through the length of the wood, all the time calling out cheerfully, "Moley, Moley, Moley! Where are you? It's me, old rat." At last to his joy he heard a feeble voice say, "Ratty, is that really you?" The rat crept into the hole and found the mole exhausted and still trembling. "Oh, Rat," he cried, "I've been so frightened." "I quite understand," said the rat soothingly. "You shouldn't really have gone and done it, Mole. I did my best to keep you from it." "Surely the brave Mr. Toad wouldn't mind coming here by himself, would he?" inquired the mole. "Old Toad," said the rat, laughing. "He wouldn't show his face here alone, not for a whole hat full of golden guineas." The mole was greatly cheered by the rat's laughter and the sight of his stick and his gleaming pistols. "Now then," said the rat, "we really must make a start for home. It will never do to spend the night here." "Dear Ratty," said the poor mole, "I'm dreadfully sorry, but you must let me rest here a while longer if I'm to get home at all." "All right," said the good-natured rat. "Rest away." So the mole got well into the dry leaves and stretched himself out and presently dropped off into sleep. When he woke, the rat went to the entrance of their retreat and put his head out. Then the mole heard him say quietly to himself, "Hello, hello, here is a go." "What's up, Ratty?" asked the mole. "Snow is up," replied the rat briefly, "or rather, down. It's snowing hard." The mole crouched beside him and looked out, saw a gleaming carpet springing up everywhere. A fine powder filled the air and caressed the cheek. "Well, well, it can't be helped," said the rat. "We must make a start. The worst of it, this snow makes everything look so very different." It did indeed. The mole would not have known that this was the same wood. However, they set out bravely and took the line that seemed most promising. An hour or two later they pulled up, dispirited, weary, and hopelessly at sea. The snow was so deep that they could hardly drag their little legs through it. There seemed to be no way out. "Look here," said the rat. "There's a sort of dell down there. We'll make our way down into that and try and find some sort of shelter." They struggled down and hunted about for a corner that was dry. Suddenly the mole tripped and fell forward with a squeal. "Oh, my leg!" he cried. "Oh, my poor shin!" "Poor old mole," said the rat kindly. "Let's have a look." "I must have tripped over a branch," said the mole miserably. "It's a very clean cut," said the rat. "Look, as if it's made by a sharp edge of something in metal. Funny." "Well, never mind what done it," said the mole, forgetting his grammar in his pain. "It hurts just the same." But the rat had left him and was busy scraping in the snow. Suddenly he cried, "Hooray!" and then "Hooray, hooray, hooray, hooray!" and fell to executing a feeble jig in the snow. "What have you found, Ratty?" asked the mole. "Come and see," said the delighted rat. The mole hobbled up and had a good look. "A door scraper? Well, what of it? Why dance jigs around a door scraper?" "Well, don't you see what that means, you dull-witted animal?" cried the rat impatiently, and he set to work again and made the snow fly all around him. After some further toil, a very shabby doormat lay exposed to view. "There, what did I tell you?" exclaimed the rat in triumph. "Absolutely nothing," replied the mole. "Can we eat a doormat or sleep under a doormat, you exasperating rodent?" "Do you mean to say," cried the excited rat, "that this doormat doesn't tell you anything? Scrape and dig if you want to sleep dry and warm tonight, for it's our last chance." The rat attacked a snowbank beside it, digging with fury, and the mole scraped busily too, to oblige the rat. At last the result of their labour stood in full view of the astonished mole. In the side of what had seemed to be a snowbank stood a solid little door. On a small brass plate, neatly engraved, they could read, "Mr. Badger." The mole fell backwards from sheer surprise. Rat, he cried, you wonder! If only I had your head. But as you haven't, interrupted the rat rather unkindly, get up at once and hang on that bell. Pull the ring as hard as you can while I hammer. While the rat attacked the door with his stick, the mole sprang up at the bell pull, clutched it, and swung there. Both his feet well off the ground, and from quite a long way off they could faintly hear a deep-toned bell respond.